Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.
I'm a headliner.
Yo, Headliner Nation, Chris Chow's back again for the Fantasy Headliners. Hope everybody is well. Today we got a good one, and it is the San Francisco 49ers. And I mean, a lot of things happened and went down this past season. They're going to have a lot of discussions on what they're going to do at the quarterback position especially. So we shall see. Let's dive in, waste no time, to get in the books on what we do for the San Francisco 49ers 2022 offseason workbook. So if you followed the 49ers at all this past season, you know that the year was an up and down event, man. They started the year 3-5, weren't looking very good. Injuries, again, were piling on, and this has been the mantra of the 49ers the past few seasons. They can't get out of their own way and need a new medical staff because everybody continuously is in that medical room. They're injured all the time. I mean, then things kind of flipped and changed, man. Shanahan changed up his system, changed up the offense and how that they operate. They won 7 of their last 9 games and found themselves in the postseason. Went all the way down to the wire, man. It was a Cinderella postseason run without question. And I mean, they ended up losing in that NFC Championship game 20-17 to those Rams, who eventually became the Super Bowl champs. But I mean, they were right there. And in that contest, we know that Debo just didn't get the ball enough at the end, which could have changed everything in that contest, because San Fran was definitely in the mix on that department. 10-7, third in the NFC West, and still made it to the NFC Championship is massive for this club. Offensively, we can see they're kind of mid-range, mid-level, all over the place. The rushing yards are the thing that catapulted this team offensively to jump them in total yards in 7th as well. The pass yards, again, we got to start discussing what is the future of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. We'll talk about it as we get in, but I mean, this is going to be the whole conversation going in to the offseason, especially when we hit the new league year. That's how it's going to be. Defensively, the 49ers are still built very well on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, there are tweaks that they could have, and yes, they likely will do them, but I mean, 10th in points, 3rd in total yards, 6 and 7 respectively in pass and rush defense. But I mean, they are very good on the defensive side. I love the 2 front lines, man, the offensive line and the defensive line for the 49ers overall. They have a great plethora of talent at those both positions, man. For the top players in 2021, we got to go Jimmy Garoppolo, 68.3, nearly 4,000 yards, 20 TDs and 12 interceptions. And I mean, you know what? He had some injuries that he was dealing with again. We've seen this notion how many times with Jimmy that he has been dealing with a numerous amount of injuries throughout all of his seasons, really. Maybe he's got 1 year in San Fran where he was healthy the entire 16. I mean, we can't say anything outside of that, but his future with this club is definitely in question. Could he be traded? Yes. Could he be released? Absolutely. It's simply based on the cap dollars, but I mean, I really don't foresee him releasing Jimmy G. I foresee a trade forthcoming in this respect. Running back Elijah Mitchell, he was your top dog simply, and they scored, man. Scored huge in the draft. He was a late round selection, day 3 pick commodity, and he almost goes for 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns, over 200 carries. Absolutely magic season for Mitchell. Debo Samuel, he was your man this year. He was the Swiss Army knife. They started utilizing him in the backfield. You can see 8 touchdowns and almost 400 yards rushing, over 1,400 receiving yards for this man. Now everybody in the NFL is looking for that next Debo Samuel, and I mean, they're trying to find it and replicate it. Often imitated, never duplicated is likely going to be the situation for Debo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk is an interesting one. He was number 3 on this list. 56 receptions, 826 and 5 touchdowns. He started the year in the doghouse, man, for Kyle Shanahan. He could not get out of his own way. Apparently, he came in to camp overweight, was not ready to go, and it took him the entire season, halfway point at least, to earn some trust and start getting some targets back, which he did, and he started making plays again. He crippled how many of us in fantasy leagues simply because we had the value a little too high. But hey, man, from his season prior, we were justified in suggesting that Ayuk was going to do wondrous things, man. George Kittle, obviously, he is one of your staples on this offense, 71, almost 1,000 yards and 6 TDs. I believe he dealt with quite a few injuries as well. I mean, Mostert, he was hurt the entire year as well. I mean, Trey Sermon, he was also in that doghouse when you start looking at what this offense could be overall. And I mean, when you going to unleash Trey Lance? Is this the year that we see it, that they let Jimmy Garoppolo go? Because we know Kyle Shanahan does like that consistency, especially at the quarterback position. Jimmy G is a guy that, he can win you games, but he can also lose you those games with those late picks, right? He's more of that game manager. He's not the guy that's going to get you to climb back in these contests more often than not. So I think it might be time. You know what? Give the reins to young buck Trey Lance and see what he can do. As for the free agents, I mean, cap space in general for the 49ers is not abundant as well. 2.95 as we sit today in free space. At least they're not on the negative like a lot of these clubs are right now. You got guard Tomlinson, 30 years old, and like I said, I'm huge on this offensive line. Tomlinson was kind of the late addition to it. He's okay. I think they could upgrade from Tomlinson, so that $5 to $6 million could definitely be spent elsewhere if they need be. Jason Verrett, 30 years old, $2 to $5 million, and I gotta feel so bad for this guy because Verrett, when healthy, is one of the better corners in this entire NFL. He just can't stay out of the medical room. ACL injuries, constantly losing season after season to those knees, and he's definitely, I really wonder if they're gonna bring him back. I wouldn't if I was the 49ers at this point, even though you're betting on him to come back and be a force. It's just too much of a risk, especially at those dollars. Unless it's like bottom market dollar, I'm moving on from Verrett, man. Raheem Mostert, 29 years old, $2.5 to $4 million, and we've already heard that Mostert is in the conversations with the upper management in San Fran, and we'll see. I mean, now that you got Eli Mitchell, why do you really want to bring back Mostert? I get it. He likes his rotational pieces at the running back position, but you scored with Eli Mitchell. This running back draft in this NFL draft is very abundant with talent, and it's got a lot of people that you can bring in and fill in for Mostert. I really would be shocked to see Mostert come back, man. Williams, defensive back, 30 years old, another around $3 million. Again, he's another player. He's serviceable at times. I don't think you can lean upon him in greater situations. We have seen it a lot. So for me, Williams is one that I would definitely move on from. Jeff Wilson, 26 years old, 2.5 million bucks. And I mean, he is, again, one of those rotational pieces. But then why did you draft Trey Sermon and not use him? I think you're going to go youth movement at the running back position. Perhaps if we're talking Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson, I would be more inclined to say that Wilson is a guy that they would likely want to bring back over Mostert. Even though Mostert gives you that high-end big play potential and appeal, I still think that the risk is way too much to pay this man with all the injuries he's dealt with, man. Jaquiski Tart, man, the safety, he is a good one, and I like his game a lot, and I think that they will bring him back, especially at the market value rates that he can achieve around $2 to $3 million. I don't hate it whatsoever. And Key, defensive end, $4 million is his market value. He was pretty good in the sack production, no question, man. We do got the tackle. He is 29 years old. He is a restricted free agent. We got Jermichael Hasty, 25, restricted free agent as well. Excuse me, I'm stumbling. And I mean, you got Juwan Jennings, restricted free agent, and then Aziz, you got him as a restricted free agent. So you see that they're going to have to pay some funds here to these restricted free agents to keep this team together offensively and defensively, because, I mean, those are very sound pieces to have. Hasty, maybe not, but Jennings definitely did come on as the season wore on. When it comes to San Francisco's potential cap cuts, here is where the meat and potatoes are again, and I love it because Jimmy G right now, his name is being floated all over the league in a potential trade. We've heard Pittsburgh a lot to say that could be a landing spot for Jimmy Garoppolo. $25 million, $25.5 million can be saved with only 1.4 going to dead funds, and I think this is a no-brainer for me if you're the 49ers. I get it. You believe that you're right there on the cusp of going to the Super Bowl with how this team is constructed. I'm done with it, man. You guys are the same vanilla offense every single year. It's time to start getting explosive. I get it. Trey Lance, maybe he wasn't ready. We all said that too. He's going to take some time to get ready to be that guy. And I think now, you know what? It's time to take off the shackles and just let him fly, man, because Trey Lance is that good. Jimmy Ward, he is one of the better defensive players on this team. He stepped up his game, got that big contract, but now that contract is coming back to bite him a little bit. $9.5 million in saved, 3.4 on the dead. I could really see him not being cut, but I could see him definitely being restructured to move some funds around. I really do believe that Ward is a good player on this defense. They like having him, but I mean, that cap hit's a little too top end heavy for me to like, man. Defensive end, Samson Ebukum. I mean, I always get these guys' names wrong. But I mean, $6.5 million in save, $1.6 million on the dead. There's big money to be saved right there. But you can see right there, if you trade Jimmy G, you restructure some of these contracts like Eric Armstead, $20 million and then $16.5 million dead. George Kittle, 16. His deal's pretty fresh, so I don't see a restructure coming from him. Trent Williams definitely needs a restructure, man. 14 mil cap hit. That's ridiculous right now, man. D Ford, he has been a thorn in their side when it comes to injuries as well ever since that trade with Kansas City. His money is way too high for the return on investment he has not given you. So $11.1 million, you definitely could move that into some bonus money, or you could maybe potentially find ways to either trade or release him, but you're going to take a heavy dead cap hit on that one as well. Fred Warner's deal, he just signed that new one, but they structured this one extremely interesting. $8.1 million on the cap hit is very nice. And for a guy who is a top-end commodity on your defense, you got to think that they structured this purposely, and it's done very well. $40 million in dead, so you have him for years to come, but at least 8.1 for a top-end linebacker is not going to put you in front of the store with a cup in your hand, so to speak. Nick Bosa, man, he is on, I believe it's the last year of his rookie deal. Now is the time to consider re-upping that deal, man. That way you can drop this $10.8 million cap hit and put it down a little bit lower. Something like you have a Fred Warner deal. We can see Bosa make on a cap hit around $6.5 to $7 million, and everything else goes pushed to bonus money. That could easily, man, with restructures, like I said, you got free agents coming, man, in 2023. Debo's up, man, or Nick Bosa, sorry, is 2023. So now is an opportunity to restructure that deal. Mike McGlinchey, the offensive tackle who was injured this past season. It's time to restructure that deal as well because give him a new deal because they are free agents coming up. But I mean, the restructuring of Armstead and Williams, you could easily gain another almost $30 million and potential cap savings with Jimmy G traded. You're going to be around the $50 to $70 million, man, in cap money coming back, which allows you to re-sign the free agent list, which isn't overly, critical. You have a few key pieces that you would like to bring back, but this will allow you to be big players on the open market and have money on the reserve for following seasons to re-sign guys like Bosa, Samuel, and McGlinchey, which are top priorities. When it comes to the NFL draft, no first-round pick like we know. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 7s via comp picks, man, for the San Francisco 49ers. They do get pick 61. That is their first pick on the board, but a Jimmy G trade could potentially give them a first-round pick. I really doubt that he will garner a first-round selection in 2022, but potentially we could see a first-round pick come back to San Fran in 2023. I would not be surprised if that is the case. A first in 2023, and then maybe a third or fourth maybe in this year's draft. We could definitely see that, but with pick 61, you got to think defensive tackle, defensive line has got to be a priority in this case as well. I mean, you're going to have free agents coming. I mean, you lost a few pieces on injury, like I said. You still got Kinlaw. He is your guy, but adding more depth to that defensive line is going to be paramount. I do like defensive back, but where we sit at this point, I mean, DB and DB are my top needs. You see I got it listed twice, but where you're at pick 61, there likely will not be a lot of top defensive backs left in this draft. So, I mean, why not stack the position of strength? Keep the rotation going on that defensive front so you can keep your guys fresh and limit them from going back into that medical room, which is the problem. But San Fran does have decent ammunition to at least start trading on day 2, end of day 2, day 3, to start gaining depth, at least if you don't get rid of Jimmy G for a first this year. But anyways, scouting reports, man, as always on Headliner U. Go subscribe over there after this video on YouTube, man. Headliner U, we are doing all the scouting reports for as many rookies in this class as possible to get you ready for fantasy football, no question, and your favorite team. When it comes to the players under contract as we sit today, okay, Jimmy G and Trey Lance, still got to put them up here until the Jimmy G saga is completed. I really believe if I'm the 49ers and I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm moving on. I'm going Trey Lance. Let's see what he can do. Let him learn on the fly. We know that's the best way for these guys to learn majority of the time. You know, they're going to make mistakes, but how many more mistakes is Lance going to make over what Jimmy G does? So, I mean, to me, it's irrelevant at this point. Go get your draft pick, save that money, and put Trey as your starter. Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon could be your 1-2 punch if Sermon upped his game enough and the coaching staff, especially Kyle Shanahan, is happy with that performance. performance. You got Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle rounding out your pass catchers. And I mean, this offense still looks great. You put Trey Lance with these individuals, you got read options all day long, RPOs all day long. The potential for Trey Lance to run on his own now becomes a big staple in this offense, and something we know Kyle Shanahan loves to do. He says he likes playing 11 on 11. When you have an immobile quarterback, you're playing 10 on 11. So this adds everything to the playbook that he loves and covets to do, and I love it, man. On the defense, Bosa, Kinlaw, like I said, he was dealing with those knee injuries, but he is a mammoth of a man, mammoth of a human being, and that D-line still is a force. Armstead again, Fred Warner, Greenlaw, and like I said, Aziz, he is an RFA and definitely should come back, in my opinion. I really don't foresee them allowing him to enter the open market, especially at his youthful age. Mike McGlinchey, that torn quad, he was out, but I mean, you know, he is one of the staples. Like I said, offensive and defensive lines on this team are absolutely stellar, and they will continue to build that way. I mean, so there you go. That is the San Francisco 49ers as I see them, what they could do this offseason. The new league year is vastly approaching, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of, changing of the guard, I do believe, in San Fran. We're going to see a lot of movement on this club. They are 10-7. They, like I said, Cinderella year, getting to the NFC Championship. They are not quite that full-rounded built team. I think they got a little bit of luck on their side as well, but they have opportunity and potential to round out this team. Have Trey Lance as your starting quarterback, and we could see them be a dominating force without question. But nevertheless, man, that is all I got. So go ahead, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and we'll see you next time. I am out.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headline Nation, we running the game.